Alejandro Garnacho is now one of Manchester United's most exciting talents and would be considered to be a £100 million plus player by those at Old Trafford. He's already scored in an FA Cup final, won the Copa America with Argentina, and forced his way into becoming a regular starter at just 20 years of age, and there's still so much room for improvement in his game. Yet, Garnacho's move to United might have never happened due to a somewhat bizarre reason. Back in the summer of 2020, United signed Garnacho in a window which was considered as a very active transfer market for the youth academy. They usually aim to sign 3 or 4 players per season. For example, last summer, we saw the Fletcher twins and Harry Amas join the setup. However, with Brexit coming in and changing the way in which you can buy foreign talent, as well as United losing multiple youth players to other academies, the Reds wanted to take full advantage of that window. Radek Vitek, Isaac Hansen-Aaron, Alvaro Fernandez, Mark Gerardo, Charlie McNeil, Willy Cambuala, Joe Hugel, and Alejandro Garnacho were among the players added to the ranks. Garnacho joined for just £400,000 from Atletico Madrid, and the deal couldn't have been done without one man in particular. Gerardo Guzman was appointed at United in 2016 as part of the club's comprehensive youth scouting network in Europe. Who was Guzman? The previous head of youth recruitment at Atletico Madrid. United's own head of academy, Nick Cox, described the acquisition of Guzman as a coup, and that whilst he had a lesser role at Old Trafford, the youth expert saw United as a bigger club than his previous employers. Guzman's expertise and personal knowledge of Garnacho was crucial in United getting the signing done. He first saw the young Argentine at 10 years of age and lived close to the Garnacho family. United would be scouting the winger for 2 years before he eventually signed, and the comprehensive report that they would later show the player and the family during discussions helped assure them of the move. The insider knowledge from Guzman was key in bringing Garnacho to England. The youth expert knew the player wasn't happy at Atletico and that he would soon be out of contract. During lockdown, when Spain had one of the strictest in Europe, Guzman and the Garnachos worked out at the same gym, and he could see how hard Garnacho was training. Other Spanish clubs were interested, but none from England, and thanks to Guzman, no club had the insight that United did. After moving forward with negotiations, it was time for direct discussions between the player, his family, and the club. The only problem was that we were still living in the pandemic, where travel restrictions meant that United could not woo the player with tours of the Carrington facilities or face-to-face interactions. Instead, it was all done on a Zoom call. There was not much English spoken, explained Nick Cox, the academy director at United, tasked with convincing Garnacho and his family of the move. Gerardo helped. I was desperately trying to connect with this young person who I'd never met and talk about our reputation for developing talent. Things were going well. Of course, United have a rich history with youth talent, and that is an immediately attractive prospect to a 16-year-old looking to pave a way into the professional game. However, Cox was taking the Zoom call in the spare bedroom at his home. That is where he was trying to run United's academy from. Like any parent who attempted to work from home during the pandemic, distractions were inevitable, and Cox had his 2 sons at home during that call. They were listening in and trying to see if their dad could lure this player to United. But then, as teenage boys do, they started arguing. Did one steal the remote from the other, hide one of his PlayStation games, or simply start arguing for no reason at all? All would be realistic scenarios for 2 brothers aged 10 and 14, yet Cox was trying to make a coup that would eventually save United a potential £100 million signing, and the noise was beginning to impact that call. Fortunately for everyone involved, the boys stopped their argument and Cox was able to convince Garnacho of the move, but that doesn't stop the academy director from reminding his children that if that row had gone on any longer, then Garnacho probably wouldn't have signed for Manchester United. The teenager would end up joining the Old Trafford club later that summer, but it was one of the most difficult circumstances for a young player to come into. Moving away from home into another country while still in lockdown, Garnacho has explained that it was his biggest challenge so far. To come to England at 16 years old in 2020 with COVID, leaving behind family is never easy at this stage. The first year was really difficult, but if your dream is to be one of the best, you have to do these things. But as we previously mentioned, United were busy in that summer and also signed Alvaro Fernandez and Marc Gerardo from Real Madrid and Barcelona. The three Spaniards were close and helped each other get through that difficult adjustment period. Now, 4 years later, and Garnacho has got the world at his feet. Ineos consider him as one of the untouchable players in the transfer market, but if they were to let him go, he would command at least £100 million. Thankfully for United though, he is most definitely staying, and fans will be hoping that that is the case for the rest of his career. Wingers who can get the fans out of their seats are the best players to watch, and Garnacho has been doing exactly that ever since that FA Youth Cup final in 2022. He will be wanting to take the next steps at United next season towards becoming a ruthless operator in the final third. If he manages to make that click, then United will have an extremely dangerous player at their disposal. Yet, it might never have happened had that argument lasted any longer.